Hello, Team Redstone. Welcome to the Redstone Ready and Resilient Report. My name is Brian Copeland. I'm the Redstone Arsenal Community Ready and Resilient Integrator. I work alongside 4 working group chairs. We're here together to support the senior commander's efforts to ensure that Redstone remains a holistically healthy community. Those 4 working groups are the behavioral health, spiritual resiliency, family and social resiliency, as well as the physical health working group. We are here to make sure that the senior commander's efforts and priorities are supported and that Redstone remains a place where personnel and individuals want to work, live, and play. Go Team Redstone.
Welcome to the Redstone Ready and Resilient Report. I'm your host today, Lisa Simonassi with the Garrison Public Affairs Office. Today, my guest is Michelle Borman. She is on the Army Substance Abuse Program here, and she's the newest member of the team. And Michelle, your focus is on prevention. Welcome to Team Redstone.
Well, thank you.
So talk to me a little bit about what you bring to the program. What is your experience in this arena?
So I was hired as a prevention coordinator here. I have 33 years altogether government service, but the majority of that has been working with the substance abuse program and working at different installations and working with community members and tying all that together, all of my previous experiences and moving forward with new trends.
Well, we're so happy to have you here. Today, our focus is really on fentanyl.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. We hear it in the news all the time. But when we're talking about fentanyl, what is it we're actually talking about?
So fentanyl is the reason why we're hearing about it in the news. It's a national crisis. Fentanyl itself is a synthetic opioid, and it is 50 times more potent than heroin and 100 times more potent than morphine. So it's a very dangerous pill. Fentanyl is used and being cut in all different types of drugs. So what you could have purchased previously as like pure cocaine or even marijuana can be cut with fentanyl nowadays, which makes it more potent and the addiction factors go up and it's a lot more dangerous. It just takes a very small amount. So there's a lot of money to be made with fentanyl because it just takes a little amount to cause the effect of the high. And also because we have people that are developing these in laboratories down in Mexico that have no science background, there's no science to it. So you never know the dosage and if it's going to be exact. So from one pill to the next, you may be getting a different variant of how much fentanyl is in there.
So talk to me a little bit about, unlike cocaine is an illegal drug, but fentanyl is something that is also prescribed, isn't it? And
so there's pharmaceutical fentanyl. It's used for medical purposes, just like any other opioid. So it's a pain reliever that can assist people who have been through some bad accidents and injuries, and it's dosed correctly. It's done in a laboratory. It's done with scientists, and so you know the amount that the doctor's prescribing, and they understand the potency of fentanyl. And then there's counterfeit fentanyl that's the concern.
Counterfeit fentanyl is what we're talking about then, not the stuff that's prescribed and you pick up at the pharmacy.
Correct.
Okay, so this is different. And so what are we looking for? What does it look like? How do I know fentanyl when I see it?
That's the scary part and the dangerous part about fentanyl is that it doesn't have a taste to it. It doesn't look like something specific. It doesn't have a smell to it. So often people who are purchasing drugs or pills or even fentanyl itself don't really recognize and know what they're taking because it can come in different forms, powder, liquid, and in pill form. Those are the counterfeit ones. So the DEA has also issued a warning. There's some colorful ones that look to be like candy. It can be tricky for children to be able to decipher between candy and what may be fentanyl. It's not only across the country, it's here in Alabama as well, and in our backyard. The difference is that back when I was growing up, I had friends that would take a pill, not know what it was, and could potentially, get really sick off of it. The thing is, nowadays, what's really scary is that you can take that one pill and it can be fentanyl, and we have the potential of an overdose. And if somebody's not there to medically treat you with Narcan, potentially you could die. It's really a scary thing. And we have had incidences within our area. The schools have had fentanyl overdoses in the school districts here.
And what do those look like when, we hear that it's a crisis, but what does it look like out in the community? How is the fentanyl crisis appearing?
So the death rates have gone up astronomically. According to the DEA, we have 3 times the opioid overdoses than we had since 2020. So with the introduction of fentanyl, overdoses have increased. And behind that, we have some more drugs that are showing up. One of them is even 100 times more potent than fentanyl. Other drugs, you can't even use Narcan. They're trying to develop a Narcan that will help with those types of drugs. So all of this we'll be talking about in our forum so that we can give more information about what's going on with this.
So you mentioned the forum. I know you've got something coming up for the community. Let's talk about what that is and when it is.
So we're taking a new approach at looking at prevention. And so we've decided to bring a forum of professionals that work in the field that are seeing this firsthand. We have a coroner that's going to be talking about what it's looking like, what the numbers are, what's the age demographics. We have an emergency room director that can talk about the numbers of people that are coming to the emergency room that are overdosing on fentanyl and how they can treat those individuals. An ambulance driver, supervisor, that's going to be able to talk about when he arrives on the scene, what does that look like? A pharmacist that can tell us the differences between all of these drugs. And then also a clinical specialist that deals with different drugs and what that looks like for as far as resources available and how to get help. So we're going to take a community approach. And after they get done doing their presentations, we welcome everybody to ask any questions they may have about fentanyl, trending drugs, or even if they have another question. That's what these experts are here to help us with. And they're in our local community and they're boots on the ground dealing with this on an everyday basis. So they're going to bring a lot of knowledge to Redstone to better equip our community to understand about this crisis and what we can do.
And it sounds like a really powerful event. It's a shame not everybody's going to be able to make it. But for folks who can't make it or the opportunity doesn't present itself, what resources can you point people to? And let me ask you this first, though. If I don't think that fentanyl's an issue in my life, why should I care?
Because it affects everyone. Even if it doesn't affect you directly, it could be through a family member, it could be a coworker, somebody that you care about, a neighbor. It is affecting a lot of different people. And just even getting the message out that one pill can kill is truly important because people, if you don't know, you don't know. Some of the resources we'll be sharing at the event, but if you can't attend that day, we will be videotaping it, and we are also setting up a Microsoft Teams to be able to stream it. We'd love to have people come in person because then we're showing community support. And you're there, you're a part of, and you can ask your questions. But for those who can't, we will have that opportunity for them to be able to see it in that forum.
And in your role as prevention, and you talked about back in the day, one pill might make you sick, but you certainly probably weren't going to end up dead. And then to see this fentanyl crisis and then the emerging things that you're talking about, it kind of seems just to kind of get scarier and scarier.
It does. And they've put out the information. The DEA has a really great website and so does the CDC. If you want to learn more information, if you go to the forum and you're too scared to ask a question, I mean, those are really good places to go and find out the information. In fact, they show the difference between pharmaceutical and a counterfeit drug. One of the surprising things that I discovered when I was looking into all of this was the counterfeits actually look more professionally made, which is tricky to your brain because you would think the pharmaceutical would. And also there's some really great videos out there that showing how they're making it, and in the middle of cow pastures in a field with no scientists behind it. And it is so potent that if it touches your skin, and that's why it's truly a risk for law enforcement as well. Or if you breathe it in, you can have it affect you as well. Like, you don't have to necessarily take the drug to have it affect you. So it's really dangerous. It's really scary. As the ASAP office, we thought it was really important to go at it with a community approach. A lot of us don't live here on the arsenal. We live out in the community. And so knowing what's going on in our community will give us some tools to educate and share that knowledge with friends and family, coworkers, loved ones.
Because the more people know, the more they can share.
Right.
One more question for you, Michelle, before you go. We talked about how times have changed. Has our approach to prevention kept pace with that, or has it changed the way we do get the information out to people?
I think we've gotten better and better. When I first started, and previous to me even becoming part of the ASAP team, I just remember a lot of death by PowerPoint. And it wasn't what was trending. It wasn't what was going on in our community. It was a check the box kind of, this is what cocaine looks like, and this is what it'll do to your body. And it didn't have really any relevancy. We were just checking the boxes. But I think as we evolve, we've realized that we need a new approach. And so we need to, get on top of things before they become a problem and an issue, and to give that education piece. For me, I've always loved joining in on coalitions, talking to experts in the community, bringing on new perspectives, and putting a lot of research behind what I'm presenting so that it's new, it's refreshing. I love it when somebody says, I've never heard of that. Because that's my goal. I want to bring awareness to the things that aren't known. So.
We appreciate you bringing that awareness and sharing with us today. I think it's very important, and I hope people can attend that event. And if not, we can make it available to them. So you recently went to a community forum just like the one we're planning here, and you came back with some powerful lessons learned. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So what I was surprised by is that I guess what I hear in the news all the time, so my assumption was that, even drug addicts are avoiding fentanyl because they know the potency of it and they don't want to necessarily die, so that they avoid it. There was an individual that stood up and shared a story about a family member who she was really distraught and upset because this family member had accidentally purchased fentanyl, and then she started to chase it. So knowing that next dose of fentanyl could potentially kill her, it didn't stop her from chasing it because that high is so strong and it grabs a hold of you. So again, heroin, we've all known, stay away from heroin because you can use it once and become addicted because it's so highly addictive. With fentanyl being 50 times more potent, the high and the chase is still there. And so that was surprising to me. I wasn't expecting that answer. Another thing that I learned is that a lot of times the users use in public. They'll use in parking lots.
Really?
Because they want to be found and somebody to administer Narcan. They don't want to die, but they want that high. And so they're not in the basement hiding. They're not the closet addict. They're openly doing it in public. so that somebody can come to their aid.
That really is a different perspective, and it kind of just turns things upside down for what we normally think.
Right. And an addict's brain works different, right? So and part of prevention is preventing the addiction in the first place by knowing what to avoid.
So I've heard you say Narcan a couple times. What are we talking about? What does it do, and what's the role?
So Narcan can be used in an overdose. It's a nasal spray that can go up there and stop the receptors and stop the actions of the drug. So a lot of times addicts don't want you to administer Narcan because it stops the high immediately. Actually, they are working towards some bills here in Alabama to make it where you can purchase it off the shelves. So we'll learn more about that in the forum as well.
Does it work every time, this Narcan?
Narcan can work, but the problem is that somebody may come out of it, but you still have to take them to the emergency room because the fentanyl is still working inside their system and can cause another overdose. So that's why they need to go to the emergency room and be monitored there.
So Narcan alone is just not enough. There's another step that people ought to take.
Right. We absolutely need to get these people to an emergency room and under a doctor's care.
Okay. Very important information. Thank you for joining Team Redstone and being a part of the community. It was great to have you today.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Great discussion from my installation professionals. Join us again for another discussion during the Redstone Ready and Resilient Report. Go Team Redstone.